So can a lay lifestyle lead to becoming an arahant?
A lay lifestyle? No, that's impossible. The question, that's often asked is, can a layman be an arahant? But that depends what's meant by layman. If you mean that somebody is not formally ordained, doesn't wear robes, then yes, a layman can become an arahant. But if by a layman you mean partaking in the lifestyle of a layman, living in company, still having concerns with the world, living a household life, not being sense restrained, that's impossible. So from that point of view, a layman cannot be an arahant. That's when the suttas, a layman, as in a person not ordained in the big order, but became an arahant. It wasn't a householder who became an arahant. It was a person who wasn't ordained, but wasn't living as a householder either. So the most famous case is Bhakya, who himself was a naked, a wood bark ascetic. He was just wearing wood bark to cover himself, and he was living very austerely, mindfully, practicing for who knows how long, and he was so pure that he himself thought he's fully enlightened. And then the Deva, out of compassion, said, no, actually you're not fully enlightened, go and meet the Buddha. And that's the famous instruction where the Buddha, all he needed to say to him was, in the scene, let there just be the scene, in the herd, let there just be the herd, and so on for all the senses. And he became an arahant. So technically he was a layman. He wasn't a monk, he wasn't an ordained. Because then he asked the Buddha, oh, can I join your order? He said, yeah, go and find the ball and the robe. But then he got killed by a cow. So technically he was a layman who became an arahant. But you realize he was far from living a layman's life. He was basically a type of samana, an ascetic, just not ordained in the order. And often that's where the lines get blurred. People say, oh, so you don't need to be a monk, as in you don't need to be formally ordained to become an arahant, means I can live a household life and become an arahant. No. You need to live like a monk. Whether you wear robes and you're ordained formally or not, that doesn't matter. But the lifestyle of somebody who has renounced the world, who is sense restrained, well, that matters. That is a necessary basis for it. What does constitute a samana? Sense restraint, celibacy, seclusion, devoted to seclusion as much as possible, and not being engaged, preoccupied, concerned, inspired by worldly affairs. So you might need to do some worldly things to some extent, even as monks you have to, but that's one thing, doing it as like a chore, and doing it because you're still driven by it and you still want it and you still have desire towards it. So that must be abandoned. So technically you can live a lay life, but if you were able to live lay life yet be so withdrawn from everything, succeed in that, why don't you just become a monk? Nothing would stop you from becoming a monk. So usually when somebody doesn't become a monk, it's because something is still stopping them in the world, which is a form of concern, and that in itself is an impediment for if they want to be an arahant.
So one can go forth without ordaining.
Yes, but not because you feel like you've gone forth, but because you actually became Sotapanna or higher. And that's why the noble Arya Sangha in the suttas includes lay people. They were not monks, but they were actually Aryas. And consequently, one can go forth and ordain and still be a householder in his mind. So wearing robes is not a guarantee that you are a samana, that you have that distinction of a noble Sangha.